Building massive arms is one of the most common goals of anyone who steps foot in the gym. From the average guy looking to bulk up and gain some muscle to the top pro bodybuilders in the world. Impressive biceps and triceps have an appeal that almost no other muscle group has. In fact, just having large arms in general gives you the appearance that you're much bigger than you actually are. I should know. As someone who's often mistaken for 215 to 230 pounds, I actually walk around most of the year at about 190 to 195 pounds, at around 5'11". I'm not extremely big by bodybuilding standards, especially based on my height, but having over 19-inch arms fully pumped gives me that illusion, and I'll take it. But the question is, what exercises should you use to build bigger biceps and triceps? What are the best options and what are the worst? So today, we're gonna go over my top choices for bicep movements and my top choices for tricep movements. And then we're gonna talk about the options that I personally hate. So let's start with biceps. To fully develop the biceps, my philosophy has always been, 1, you need a heavy loading movement. 2, you need a movement that you could fully stretch the muscle under load. And 3, you need a movement that you could focus on peak contraction of the muscle at the top of the movement. To cover the basics, we're first going to go into the exercise that loads the muscle heavily. And number 1 is going to be the basic old school barbell curl, ideally done with a straight bar. This is a movement that you could effectively and safely load up the biceps more so than any other exercise. It's a bare bones and no thrills exercise that all you need is a barbell and some plates. And you can find this at any gym. It's not an exercise where form or technique needs to be anything elaborate, but we'll get to that soon. But for barbell curls, you really just need to pick the correct weight that allows you to load the biceps in the 6 to 12 repetition range with good form. Occasionally going higher rep or even incorporating advanced techniques like the cheat curl. This one is really the bread and butter bicep movement. And if you try to skip it, you're probably going to have a difficult time finding a movement to replace it with that you can load the biceps heavily and safely. Now, the second movement I'm going to pick for biceps is going to be the one that you could fully stretch the muscle. Now, to throw a little science in there, there's many different ways to overload a muscle. And one of the ways is through stretching under load, or specifically, stretch-mediated hypertrophy. Simply put, when you stretch a muscle under heavy load, it will produce greater signals for more muscle growth. It's one of the reasons why a full range of motion squat or hack squat produces more muscle growth in the quads than something like a leg extension. So if you're trying to get the most out of your exercise selections in the gym, you want to include at least one exercise that safely stretches the target muscle. Now, in the case of the biceps, there's 2 great options here. First, the incline dumbbell curl, as propping yourself up on an incline bench moves the elbows behind the body. In this position, the biceps are fully stretched at the bottom of the lift, something that can only happen in this position. The second exercise you can do this on, you can mimic this movement using a cable machine by stepping forward and letting the cables pull the elbow back behind the body. But these 2 exercises are really the best ones for stretching that bicep under load. So the incline dumbbell curl and the leaning away cable curl have to make the top of the list. And finally, the third exercise I'm going to pick is one that focuses on peak contraction. That's when tension is the highest at the top portion of the movement, or when the muscle's fully contracted. Now, many machines attempt to accomplish this, but I'm not a fan of many bicep machines in the gym, mostly based on the poor resistance curve of the movement. But you can accomplish the same thing by bracing your upper body on an incline bench and performing curls. That's the braced incline barbell curl. These have also been called spider curls, but generally that refers to using about a 45-degree angle on this movement. Personally, I found that even the slightest incline and a more upright position works just fine to create that peak contraction on the curl. And if you include all 3 of these exercises in your bicep training, I'd say you have that muscle group covered. Now for triceps, we're going to follow those same exact principles. Starting with the heavy loading movement, we're going to go with the easy bar skull crusher. With the ability to heavily load the triceps on this movement, we're going to call this the equivalent of a barbell curl for the triceps. And it's by far my personal first pick for the tricep mass building movements. Yes, even beating out dips and close grip bench presses. Of course, those load the triceps heavily as well, but they also place a ton of tension on the pecs and the front delts. Now, once we have the loading covered, I want to pick a movement that fully stretches the triceps. And the only way to accomplish this full stretch of the triceps is with an overhead tricep extension. A dumbbell or easy bar overhead extension gets the job done better than any other exercise. What's even better is this is also a movement that you can heavily load the triceps on. Only downside is it tends to come with a little more elbow stress when you go super heavy. So higher reps and deeper stretches on this movement make the most sense. Now, to finish off the triceps with the third best movement, we're going to focus on peak contraction. The most simple exercise to get the the job done here is a basic tricep press down, with the tension being highest on the triceps in that fully contracted position. You can use a V-bar, a straight bar, or a rope on this exercise. The key is getting that extra squeeze at the bottom of the movement. And the best part about all these movements is there's nothing fancy about any of them. They don't require an elaborate setup. They don't require you to force your body in awkward positions. If you find yourself training arms with uncomfortable setups in the gym, you're probably performing an exercise that I'd personally rank as one of the worst movements for arms. If you have to move benches over to the cable stacks, turn your body into odd positions to use machines, or use them in ways that they weren't intended to be used, you're probably falling victim to an exercise that an influencer created in the last 5 minutes. Today, many guys get caught up in looking for more advanced movements to build their arms. And in my opinion, they're not lacking results because of exercise selection. They're lacking results because of lack of effort in the gym. Try it for yourself. Eliminate all other exercises for the arms, or the ones you feel might be useless. Focus on hitting these movements as consistently as you can over time, and watch your arms grow. And if you need to take it a step further, you can even incorporate intensity techniques to get even more out of these movements. I'll often use drop sets, supersets, rest pause sets, and I'll even sometimes implement cheat curls into my training. These are all advanced techniques, but they're all applied to basic exercises. That's the key. Basic movements are what builds muscle. It's your effort that dictates how much you'll grow from them. If you're willing to put in the effort and you want to build your physique using proven old school bodybuilding training methods, I highly recommend you check out my old school mass gain programs in the description below. And as always, if you guys want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.